going to show you how to do some very basic editing using the app called Pixlr that you can get on your Chromebook. Pixlr is sort of similar to Photoshop. It's free, and what I'm going to do here is go to my apps, and you can go to your web store and get this. I already have it installed, and it's my Pixlr editor. All right. I'm going to use Pixlr for Pros because it's got quite a bit more tools, and you guys are going to become pros. All right. So when you launch it, this is what it's going to look like. Yes, it has ads on the side. That's how it's free. Okay. You're welcome to, they've provided some sample images here if you want to mess around with that and play. But I'm going to open the image that I want to edit for my ordinary to extraordinary assignment. Okay, it's showing up here because I already was practicing, but if I go to open image, and now I can look here, I'm going to look in my drive file stream, look in my drive, and then I can look through my folders. And remember last week or the week before, we made a folder called Photo Class, and you should already have two folders in there at least called First 5 Photos, where you uploaded your first 5 images. One that I asked you to make called Best Images, where you're putting your favorite photographs. And then one called Ordinary, and that's where you're going to put all your photographs for this shoot. And that's where I put the image that I chose that I'm going to edit. So this is a photograph I took of a piece of an old Ford truck. And you could choose any of these. You don't want to choose web. That's a very small file. And I would just suggest original. Full HD makes it quite large. If we were going to be printing these out, I'd probably ask you to do full HD. All right, so here's my photograph. This looks sort of similar to Photoshop for those of you who are used to Photoshop. I'm going to move this up here. If you notice up here, it says layer is locked in position, unlocked to enable transforms. Over here on the right are layers, okay? And we can apply different layers of actions to this image. But let's go ahead and duplicate this layer. And if you notice here on the right, we've made a copy of our photograph. The reason we do that is because any changes we make to this photograph, if we decide afterwards we don't like them, we can delete this layer and start over. All right, and now I'm just going to show you some very basic editing. We'll get into, because we're going to start using Photoshop, but we can come up here and do adjustments. And you've got the ability to change all of these. So go ahead and start with brightness and contrast. You can move this over so you can see it a little bit better. And all you do is move the sliders, and you should be able to see it. And you know why we're not? I'm going to close this and show you why not. Because we're working on the background, which is underneath the background copy. The background copy is hiding it. So let's work on the background copy. Now we're going to be able to see it. Okay, move it to the side. And all you're going to do is I tend to like my stuff a little more contrasty. It's totally up to you. Temperature and tint has to do with the color. Okay. And you can see just with hue and saturation also has to do with the color. Don't be too bananas with the hue and saturation. Vibrance, the same thing. You can sort of go nuts as you see here. with just a few adjustments, you can change your photograph. So highlights and shadows. So look at the top here for the highlights, like how I can add details to the highlights. And here with the shadows, I can sort of also change the details in the highlights and shadows. Exposure is the overall brightness and darkness. And desaturate adds or, there we go, takes away color depending on. Now, if I've done that and I don't like it, I can come up here to, I can actually do, hopefully, look down here, we've got our history. Click back up here to exposure, and I've gone back in my steps. All right, another thing we could do here is crop. All we have to do is sort of drag in the sides and then press enter, and we can crop it any way we'd like. All right, when we're done, and you are welcome to play around with any of these things, we're going to go to File, Save, and it's great if you can, oops, just knocked my computer. How ordinary. We want to save it as a JPEG, high quality, and download. All right, and then I can click on my JPEG. Here it is. And I can save as, and then you're going to save it wherever you'd like to save it. You can save it in your drive. This is good practice. Back into photo class, ordinary, and then if you save it there, you'll know exactly where it is, and then you can turn it in. Okay, so that's basic editing using your Pixlr.